Joining me now in our intermission studio, the man who is in his second term as head coach of Trikrona, the Swedish national team, Tommy Sandlin. You've got to be delighted with the way this game is going so far. You look like your game plan is being lived out and played out to perfection.
As long as our goalkeeper is so good as him just now, that's our plan.
Peter Lindmark, obviously very important to the fortunes of your team in this tournament, and I guess in every game you play internationally.
Oh yes, he's very good. And just now, you know, these two periods he has been terrific.
Shots on goal after 2 periods of play, Czechoslovakia actually outshooting you 25-17. Does that worry you a little bit that they're getting more shots, or are they not quality shots?
That's worrying me a lot, because in the beginning of the second period, I think it was very close to tie the game.
Now, I know there are a lot of people out there that are watching this game wondering, is this the same Team Sweden that we've seen in the past? Because there was a reputation in North America that the Swedish team, the Swedish players, did not like physical hockey. Your team is actually taking it to the Czechoslovakians physically today. Is that a change in philosophy?
Not a change in philosophy, but I think half the team have experience from NHL, and the other part of the team will try to play as them do.
Is that helping Sweden in their international hockey situation, that you have players that go to the NHL and get that experience with maybe what is a more physical game than the Swedes were originally used to?
Oh, sure, but it don't help the Swedish national team when we lose the player, but when they come back and with a new experience, it's a very good help to us.
I think another noteworthy fact is that the Swedish team came into this tournament without some players that you were hoping would be there, some people that turned down invitations, some others that were injured.
Yeah, it's 6 professional, very good players that won't play in this summer tournament, and one of the best defensemen was injured in one of the first games.
Congratulations on what you've done so far in this game and so far in the tournament. I know you want to hang on to win this one. This is a very big game for you.
Yeah, sure, and it's a very tough period left of the game.
Tommy Sandlin, thank you very much for joining us. I know you want to get back and talk to your team. We're in the second intermission of this Canada Cup hockey game between Czechoslovakia and Sweden. The score 2-0 Sweden after 40 minutes. We'll be back to the Regina Agrodome in just a moment. This is the Labatt Canada Cup. On the committee for officiating for the International Ice Hockey Federation, I guess the toughest thing you face in getting ready for a tournament like this, you have officials from all over the world, you've got to get them calling a consistent type of game because all the players are used to basically different sort of rules.
That's probably the biggest problem we have. That's true. The international people or the European officials look at certain infractions one way. In North America, we look at infractions perhaps a little bit differently. And there's no doubt it does cause a few problems with the different ideas of judgment, interpretation. I really do think, though, over the last few years it is becoming much closer, so that there's not the great degree of differences that there used to be.
Now, the other side of that coin is the fact that the players are used to different things as well. You've got American players that have come out of the intercollegiate ranks. You've got National Hockey League players. You've got European players. So they're used to maybe different styles and different interpretations from the officials they play with throughout most of the season.
Well, there's no doubt about that. There are some rule differences, without a doubt. Any rule differences really do not affect the game that much, so that for all intents and purposes, the average spectator would not know there are any differences. But then once again, we go back to perhaps a certain type of situation is permitted in North American hockey, whereas in European hockey they clamp down on it. I know whenever the North American referees are officiating games, one thing you do hear from the European people is that the North American people do call high sticking much closer than they do in Europe.
Is that a problem when you come into a tournament that involves NHL players along with the international players?
No, I don't think so, because it's the North American official who is calling the high sticking, whereas in Europe they seem to let a lot more go. So I think the North American player is used to high sticking being called, and therefore when the officials in these tournaments are calling it, you don't really have that much of a problem.
Tough job selecting the officials for the tournament?
Well, we set down all the assignments for the entire tournament. Each official was assigned 3 games, and this is something which is normally not done in the past. At most championships, at World Championships, you assign the officials for 2 days. But we assign them from the first to the end of the tournament, except obviously for the playoff games. And the teams all accepted it, and each official gets 3 games, and then the top officials will work the semifinals and the finals.
Bob, thank you very much for joining us. Go back out and enjoy the hockey game between looking at your officials.
My pleasure to be here.
All right, we'll be back to the Regina Agridome in just a moment. The score at the end of 40 minutes, Sweden 2, Czechoslovakia nothing. This is the Labatt Canada Cup. People out there would have expected this, a defensive game involving two of the best skating, best hockey playing nations in the world. You could have thought maybe after 40 minutes it would be like 6-4.
I think that Czechoslovakia continues to be Jekyll and Hyde, and perhaps Sweden was the unknown too. We've talked about the fact that 5 major players declined invitations from Tommy Sandlin to play for Team Sweden, so perhaps they were an unknown coming in. No one expected them to be able to play strong defensively, but tonight they've played very well defensively. Sure, you have breakdowns, but when you have the kind of saves that Lindmark has been making, you end up with a pretty consistent effort, and you always have a chance to win a hockey game. Sweden's playing great hockey.
Czechoslovakia, as we mentioned to Tommy Sandlin, has actually outshot Sweden 25-17, and Lindmark has continued to be a major story in this hockey game.
Well, I think we could probably trace the shots total back to some of the power plays. Czechoslovakia definitely has had more power plays, and Lindmark has had to come up time and time again. You saw that Czech pick up the puck with his skates. It's Hrdina over to Volek. Here's where Lindmark races out to get it, and he misses it. Volek will jab it up over him. Now here's the play that would make Don Mattingly proud. Watch this. Right out of midair, he misses by 2 inches. That actually goes off the crossbar, up over the glass, and Lindmark guessed wrong on that one, and it was only a crossbar that saved him.
All right, there has to be some goals in any hockey game because a winner has to eventually come out of it.
Think so?
2-0 now for Sweden, and they've capitalized on a minimal number of chances. They did it again in that second period.
Well, it's always a game of mistakes, and if you can capitalize on the opposition's mistakes, you end up scoring goals. Here's an example of how you can win a face-off in your defensive zone and still be scored on. The Czechs on this play will win the face-off. It will go behind the centerman. Now watch 28 Baynok go back for it. The puck is rolling. He tries to jam it around hard, but doesn't get much wood on it. As a result, the Czech player on the boards there is crushed. Elderbrink is where he's supposed to be, number 2, but there's one Czech going by him. Another Czech leaving his feet so far out from the net, and Elderbrink really catches it all. Look how far back in the net Hasek is. I have to feel that if he'd been out a little further, he would have been able to cut down that angle. Nevertheless, it was capitalizing on a mistake as a result of good, aggressive play, and that's what Sweden has been, very aggressive.
In the third period, obviously, Czechoslovakia is going to have to open it up a little more. Do you think they have what it takes to come back in this hockey game?
Sure, they're only down 2 goals. They're very explosive, and they're known for the long breakaway pass. And if I were Sweden, I would try and remember it, but you can't concentrate on that. You can't go into a prevent defense. Here are the Czechs coming up ice on a tic-tac-toe that frees Kuchera up for some skating room in the neutral zone. Here he comes. Now, we talk about Europeans having skills, great hands. Watch how he goes from stick handling to teeing it up for a wrist shot and gets great wood using the Swedish defenseman as a screen. Lindmark is forced to make a good save, and that's where the skill comes in. They make the transition so well from stick handling to shooting that very often the goaltender doesn't have a chance to set up and read the play coming at him.
I think people have to know, too, that these are 2 of the best goaltenders in international hockey. Not just Peter Lindmark. Hasek is also an excellent goaltender.
I think with Yevgeny Beloshakin, who's in this tournament for the Soviet Union, Hasek for Czechoslovakia, and Lindmark for Sweden, they are recognized by just about everyone as the 3 top European goalies, if we can bunch all of those teams into a European category. Lindmark's 31, Hasek's 32. They know how to stop pucks.
Looking forward to the third period. We'll take you back upstairs in just a moment. Right now, we'll break away for a second. After 40 minutes, it's Sweden 2, Czechoslovakia no score. This is the Labatt Canada Cup. So just The second period, almost a mirror image of the first. Sweden scoring the only goal. Anders Eldebrink at the 13:15 mark, just following a Sweden power play. They didn't click on the power play, but they did score the goal to go ahead 2-0. Shots on goal in the second period, 13-8 in favor of Czechoslovakia, for a two-period total of 25 for the Czechs and 17 for Team Sweden. Now let's go back upstairs to Don Chevrier and Bill Clement for the third period.
All right, Steve Cooney, thank you very much. And many questions remain unanswered after two periods of this game. How good is Team Canada? Because they were held to a 4-4 tie by Czechoslovakia. And how good is Team USA? They beat Sweden. The Swedes beat the Soviet Union. And, of course, the big confrontations are still to come, with the United States playing the Soviets. And, of course, Team Canada still to play the Soviet Union. Well, the period begins with just 17 seconds left in the Czechoslovakian penalty, so Sweden has to hustle here to pay off on this early third period power play opportunity. Naslund makes the play. He feeds it across to Eriksson. Out of his goal is Hasek to steer it out of harm's way. They bump at the boards. Hasek sends it the other way, but Naslund's right there to pounce on it. He's being watched by Hrdina. Eldebrink, as the penalized player, is back on the ice. Czechoslovakia is back at full strength as Peter Rostel comes out to rejoin his teammates for the Czechs. Eriksson in the corner. Eldebrink, he scored the second goal. Blasts the Schlepp shot, gets a second chance, and feeds it down behind the goal. And away comes Czechoslovakia. Hrdina hits the Swedish line, fakes the shot, swings around, has it deflected over the glass and out of play. So you would expect some intensity from Czechoslovakia here. Bill Clement early in this third period trying to carve into that 2-0 lead.
Well, they're going to have to. And you know, that rush by that man, number 24, Hrdina, looks very similar to a highlight that we showed in the first period. He cuts across ice to his forehand side so well and lets the shot go so well, but I'm sure Lindmark's onto it. There you can see that he will have to pick, or at least pack, a very large suitcase when he arrives at the Winter Olympics, because he is going to be allowed to stay in Calgary and play in the National Hockey League after he represents Czechoslovakia in Calgary at the '88 Olympics, so he won't have far to go following the tournament.
Hasn't got far to go right now, but he can't take the direct route. Calgary only a few hundred miles west of Regina, Saskatchewan. Our host for this Czechoslovakian-Sweden game this afternoon. All right, from the face-off, Tommy Samuelsson swings behind his own goal for Sweden. Jonsson. Lazy shot is fired in by Sundstrom, handled by Hasek in goal for Czechoslovakia. Samuelsson playing it over on the far side. Sundstrom now. He's got Nielsen with him. Tried to feed him, couldn't get the puck across to him. The Czechs trying to make that fast break out of the zone. Here's one, but it's offside as Hasek was set up at the blue line, called back on the pass over two lines. This is the Labatt Canada Cup. A 2-0 hockey game for Sweden, looking for its second victory of this Canada Cup. Czechoslovakia has been held winless so far, just a tie with Canada to show for their two games up until this stage. Anderson beating it ahead now on the right side for Sweden. And in they come. Across the goal mouth it goes, off the stick of Bergqvist down behind the Czechoslovakian goal. The Czechs have outshot Sweden. They have had power play opportunities, 5 of them, but have not capitalized as yet. Here's a chance on the left side. It is blasted wide by Saba. Held in by Czechoslovakia. Ruzicka behind the goal. He is tied up. Poked ahead by Bergqvist. He scored the first Swedish goal, and the Swedes bring it back. Carlson with it. He's got Bergqvist with him, who sails in offside, so Carlson has to retrace his steps. Now Sodergren. He can't catch up with it. Both teams changing on the fly. Orshava behind his own goal for Czechoslovakia. waiting to form the attack, and he brings it up the ice. Pass ahead at center ice for Kuchera's broken up. Swedish player falling into the boards, Pettersson, and Anderson with it. But Sweden brings it away, with Catlets getting it to the center red line. Now Pettersson for Sweden. Albalin going in with him. The shot from a sharp angle handled easily by Dominik Hasek. Sweden again with a deflection just wide of the goal. That was the shot from the point by Tommy Albalin. Here come the Czechs. 3-on-2. Now 2-on-2 as an attacker turns back to the chains of the bench. Broken up smartly by the Swedes and brought out to the blue line for Pettersson. He takes the body, but the attacker falls. Anderson with him now, cruising on the left side. Trying to center it, nobody home. Anderson wins it again. Still can't get it in front. Now he digs it back in the slot, and Eklund got turned around. Couldn't get a shot away. Pass Anderson down to the corner now. Left there behind the Czechoslovakian goal. Cheka can't get it up. Now it is Bojic with it. Rink wide, back to the Swedish zone. Both teams changing on the fly. 3.5 minutes gone in period 3. Still 2-0 for Sweden. Stubjana. They dump it ahead at center ice. 1-on-2, the Czechs coming in. Now Hrdina comes on to get support in the corner. Bumping there with Eriksson. Back out to the point. Hard blast is on the mark and handled by Lindmark. Knocked down again by Stubjan on the point to Volek. Volek into the slot across to the face-off circle. Nobody in front for Czechoslovakia. Hrdina cruising there now. They couldn't get the puck to him. They bump as Volek goes down. Gustafsson with a good check on him. Gustafsson has it tip off his stick back to center ice. Picks it up there and comes ahead for Sweden. From Naslund, across the line they go. Naslund gets turned around. Is forced back to center. Samuelsson for the Swedes. Drives it down to the Czechoslovakian zone. Shervad with it. Stubjana inside his line. Now brings it ahead to center ice for Czechoslovakia. Takes the long shot. Reaches the Swedish blue line and goes into the corner with it. Tied up along the board. Sundstrom makes the check there, battling for the puck. And Sweden turning back to check time and time again. They come down 3-on-2. Here's Talbot feeding right in front. Oh, and just sailing too far was Sundstrom, circling the goal with nowhere to put it. It remains 2-0 for Sweden. This is the Labatt Canada Cup.
Who was that cut in? You know who that was that cut in front?
Sundstrom, the chance sweeping in front.
Yeah, just sweeping in front. Here it comes.
Brought it down the left side and around, yeah.
And that's Sundstrom there?
Oh, he's over here, I think. Oh, the guy who didn't have the puck, he was loose.
Can they do it? Boy, Sweden came oh so close to making this a 3-0 hockey game. There's Telvin to Sundstrom. Watch the position Hasek ends up in to try and make this save. He's all twisted around, but look at his left leg. He's doing the backward splits, and it worked. Having no idea if Sundstrom still had possession of the puck, but Hasek lying flat on his back made what turned out to be a brilliant save.
Peter Sundstrom made a contortionist of the Czechoslovakian goalie, but no harm done. 5 minutes gone in the period. Still 2-0 for Sweden. Hedlund gets it ahead at center ice. Pushed down the boards for Shava. He's battling in the corner with Sundstrom. Back on the point. Did it show any white? Yes, it did. Over the line. They caught it on the offside. Hedlund failing to contain it there.
Well, I asked Kent Nilsson before this hockey game if he'd received his Stanley Cup ring yet. He played for the Edmonton Oilers last year. He said, no, not yet, but I'm anxious to get it. He will not return to the NHL this year. He's going to play in Italy. And you know, one of his biggest reasons for leaving the NHL was he said, I have played a career for 10 years. My wife has supported me. She would like a career. Playing in Italy will allow me to spend more time at home and free her up to kind of develop her own career. She's going to go to school there. Mind you, that's not something you walk into an NHL locker room and announce, hey guys, I'm not going to be back because I want my wife to have a career. But Kent Nilsson tells his close friends that is one of the reasons, and I say more power to him. He's had a nice career.
He sure has. Eldebrink with it for Sweden, losing control. I wouldn't think they play an 80-game schedule over in Italy either.
36-game schedule. He's a couple of hours from everywhere, from Monte Carlo to Milan. He said it's going to be a great lifestyle.
It should be a fine way of life. Carlson for Sweden comes in against two defenders, blasts the shot through as he penetrates the defense. Prohasek again makes the big save. There is Vlach for Czechoslovakia. They come in 3-on-2. The Swedes come back to help out quickly. Kojek got turned around. Vlach in the corner. Leback can't hold it in there, and it's shot back down the ice by the Swedes. Sodergren left it there for the Czechoslovakian player, and both will change on the fly again. Michael Anderson just digs it down into the corner and leaves it behind the Czechoslovakian net. The Czechs try to break it out. Pops off the skate of Ruzicka all the way down the ice. That'll result in icing called against Czechoslovakia with 13:29 to play in the game. 2-0 for Sweden. This is the Labatt Canada Cup.
I think Nielsen might be pouting a little bit, though, because he was taken off of Naslin's line. He expected to play with him right before the game. He hasn't done anything.
Well, Tommy Sandlin has got this game almost in check here against Jan Starzy, the Czechoslovakian coach, leading the Czechs 2-0, but still lots of time left in the period. 13:29 to go. Face off to the right of the Czechoslovakian goal, won smartly by the Czechs, and Rossall brings it out. He sends Sava away on the left side. Sava, being bumped in the corner, loses control. Pettersson for Sweden with it now, works it up the boards. He fails to clear. Gets a chance again and flips it over the top of the Czechoslovakian player all the way back to the Czech blue line. Sherbak. Russell in the center ice area. And they have a whistle on the play, and there will be a penalty against Czechoslovakia. The indication is high sticking. This is the Labatt Canada Cup.
High sticking at 6 minutes and 57 seconds.
It was a very reluctant Yuri Saba that made his way very slowly from his side of the ice over to the penalty box. Referee Paul Stewart has whistled him off for high sticking, and I think it was in retaliation. He takes a hit from Eklund here. It's a clean hit. His hands are low and under him. See if Saba comes off. Oh, I saw Eklund wind up. Where's the penalty?
Bolo punch he's winding up for there.
Now you tell me how number 22 Saba ends up in the penalty box. Nevertheless,
Called high sticking. He gets 2 minutes at 6:57. But his coach looks pretty calm and accepting of it all, Dr. Jan Starzy. Power play has not been a big factor today. Certainly not for Czechoslovakia, having fanned on 5 attempts to score with a man advantage. Johnson of the New York Islanders with it. Ahead to Gustafsson. He has Naslund on his left, Nielsen on his right. Nielsen with the puck. Digs it back on the point. Johnson. Nielsen feeds it behind the net, gets it again, lets it go all the way back on the point. Johnson plays it down to Nielsen. Back for 2 of them there. Edelbrecht to Johnson with it. And Sweden taking up a lot of time in here, but not doing very much with it yet. Carlson. Johnson. Naslund with it now, and he shoots wide. Naslund trying to set up Nielsen out in front of the goal, but the Czechs break it up and return it down the ice. A minute left of the penalty. And the Czech defenders change on the go as Sweden penetrates the line once again. Edelbrecht brings it in. That's Naslund with it now around the corner for Gustafsson, far side. Held in by Edelbrecht. He gets some pressure, and the Czechs come away with it. 35 seconds still to kill, though, and their penalty for high sticking. Neither team, as we say, has looked very impressive on power plays today. Here's Pettersson trying to feed Eklund. He's way over in the corner, accompanied by the goalie. Hasek gets there first. Sweden continues the pressure. Czechs trying to clear, and it finally does succeed in rolling out the center ice for them. 9 seconds left now. The Czechoslovakian penalty to Saba. Golfed down the ice by Anderson. And another power play opportunity has gone by the boards as Saba brings the Czechs to full strength. From a wide angle, deflected shot loose in front, and oh, it's in! The puck hit in midair by the cruising Swedish attacker coming through, and Sweden leads by a score of 3-0.
And Hasek did all he could to help himself. He was down, but he stretched his stick out, and I think the Czechs were arguing that it was a high stick that knocked it in, but I think it will go in off of Pettersson's pants. Yeah, he fans on it. Hasek gets a piece of it, deflects it up right onto the pants of Pettersson, but all he was doing was skating towards the net. That's a good goal.
A happy Lars Pettersson makes it 3-0. One more look at it now. Here's the rebound coming out to set it up. Dugout in front, it gets right off his shoulder, it looked like.
He never did make contact with it, and you know, Hasek, by going down once that shot came, there's an example of how you can handcuff yourself if you're a sprawling type of goalie. He was going down when the shot arrived, and he really wasn't able to control the rebound. He steered it right to a Swedish attacker.
So the Czechs have got some big catching up to go now. The pass bounced off the referee Stewart and floats back into the Czechoslovakian zone. The Swedes are flying with Sundstrom in the corner against 2 defenders. They'll tie it up in there, and we'll get a whistle at about the midway point of this third and final period. The assists on the goal scored by Lars Pettersson go to Eklund, number 4, and number 27, Michael Teldin, for Sweden's third goal. They do love their hockey here in Regina, Saskatchewan, a rare treat for people here who do not have an NHL franchise to watch a couple of fine European teams in action in the Canada Cup. Sundstrom, again, working so hard behind that Czechoslovakian goal. Being watched and checked by Igor Liba. Nilsson comes away with it. Here is the blast, and that goes wide from Rundqvist and out of play. With 10:22 to play in the period, and the Swedes in control now by a 3-0 lead.
You know, the Czechs, I don't know what they are. Are they Dr. Jekyll or are they Mr. Hyde? They opened this tournament with an impressive 4-4 tie against an unbelievably powerful team, Canada. Don, you saw most of that game, as did I, and I thought they looked very sharp. Since then, they lost to the Soviet Union. Here, they're about to go down to defeat. And I don't know what they do from here. How do you go home and rebuild a team that's the youngest team already in the tournament? Perhaps they just have to wait it out and hope for a better showing in the Olympics.
Very young, the average age a little over 23 and a half years. So they have time on their side, but their frustrations are mounting here in this game and in this tournament, certainly. Still looking for their first win and trailing in this one by 3. Sodergren took a run of the Czechoslovakian player, then carries on inside the blue line. It is still there. The quick wrist shot from the left side by Benquist. Brookquist is turned back. Less than 10 minutes to play in the game now. And of course, if there are ties for playoff spots, the goals for and against are going to be a factor too in the final analysis in the round robin. So the Swedes by no means are going to lay off here. Sweden has been forechecking very well at the Czechoslovakian line, and they forced that long desperation shot high over the net by Kedlin. This is the Labatt Canada Cup.
No.
It is 3-0 Sweden. About 9.5 minutes to play in the game. Yuri Kuchera will take the faceoff just inside Sweden's blue line. And he lost the draw to the experienced Gustafsson of Sweden. There is Nassla now for Gustafsson. Tried to feed him, couldn't connect. Bojic for Czechoslovakia. Baynock plays it ahead. Rolls inside Sweden's zone. Peter Lindmark not getting the work in this period, Bill. He certainly got on the first 2.
Boy, they've tightened it up as well, and I would have thought that with the with the Swedes perhaps trying to sit on a lead to a degree, that Lindmark might come under fire. But you notice that last time it went in, Kelvin just rifled it around the board. So the Swedes are taking absolutely no chances. They're not trying to generate any offense, and they're not going to be afraid to just dump it all the way down the ice at this stage.
That is Peter Anderson reaching center and safely on the Czech side of center, dumping it down to the zone. They dig for, jam against the boards, and force a stoppage in play with 8:36 remaining now in the game. And the Swedish team, perhaps not mindful now of the possible goal differential later on in the final standings, at this stage content with their 3-0 lead as Naslund skates off.
Well, what a season he had 2 years ago. Well, every season that he's had in the National Hockey League has been productive, but he had 110 points a couple of years ago, combining 43 goals and 67 assists. Of course, that was the Stanley Cup year for the Montreal Canadiens.
Johnson keeps it in play in the Czechoslovakia end of the ice. And the more the Swedes can keep it down there and have those seconds tick away, the closer they are to a victory, which will be their second in 3 games. Here's a loose puck, race for it. Dangerous thrust by Czechoslovakia, but Sweden getting back in time to turn it away from harm's way. Johnson recovering nicely on the play, has it a Sundstrom now. And this is Johnson for Sweden at the Czechoslovakia blue line, driving it down to the corner. Sherban. He will leave it there for Levina. Back to Sherban again. 7:50 to play in the game. Long drive, way off the mark, wide of Lindmark. Across the goal crease it goes, still in play. Sherban with it. He gets tied up by Johnson. Lundqvist gets it out for Sweden. Nielsen stalking the Czechoslovakian player in his own zone. Now he'll give him some room as the Czechs make a couple of changes, as do the Swedes. Less than 7.5 minutes remaining. 3-0 for Sweden. Kadlet's forced it inside the line, but it comes out just as quickly. Horsheva for Leva, who lost his stick, and it rolls to the Swedish blue line. And again, the Swedes just content to dump it down, kill as much time as they can. This one, though, is going to cost them an icing penalty with 6:58 left. This is the Labatt Canada Cup. Yeah? Excellent. 7-6. Nice work, Susie. It is getting late in the third period of this third game for the Czechoslovakia national team in the Canada Cup. 6:58 remaining. They trail Sweden 3-0. They have been behind since the first period, and despite many power play opportunities, simply haven't been able to capitalize. They have sustained a certain amount of pressure on Peter Lindmark in goal for Sweden, but not in this period to the extent they did in the first two. And the Swedes promptly clear the zone again. Shot down the ice by Michael Anderson. And that is where the puck has been on the Czech side of center ice for a good part of this period. Big pileup back there, but play goes right on. Here is Pasek inside the line, circling, dropping the pass there, trying to set a play up, and it's turned away by the Swedish defenders.
Once again at the blue line, excellent defensive play by Sweden. They have kept the 3 centermen that we said were going to be keys for Czechoslovakia pretty well under wraps all night long. Ruzicka, Pasek, and Hrdina. We haven't seen much, especially of Ruzicka and Pasek. Hrdina's had a couple of chances, but in general, excellent defensive work by all of the Swedes.
They have shut them down as Naslund shoots it into the Czech corner again. It's held on the right point. Here's a relay, a dangerous one, a rebound, but down goes Dominik Hasek to make a fine save right on the goal line.
Did you see how he let his stick go? It's so uncharacteristic of goalies to do this, and he might be the only guy in the world that does this. This can change directions, but when the puck is lying in front of Hasek after the play, watch how he just abandons his stick. There goes the stick. He dives for the puck with both hands. He doesn't care about his stick at all.
The puck is all he cared about, and he did come up with it to keep it at 3-0. Gustafsson on the faceoff, winning it for Sweden. Naslund over in the right corner. Less than 6 minutes of play remaining now. Gustafsson bumping in there, wins the puck. Trying to push Eriksson out in front to take the pass. Now there's a convention there, and a pretty rough one in the Czechoslovakian corner as they bump and bang. Referee can still see it, so play goes right on. But these are valuable seconds ticking away for Czechoslovakia, trailing 3-0. The Swedes doing exactly what they hope to do, and that is to keep the puck in the Czechoslovakian end of the ice and pin them in there to avoid a comeback and prevent one. And this appears to be a very disheartened Czech team at this stage, Phil.
Yeah, they don't look as if they have much life at all, especially when they allow the Swedish team, as you mentioned, to pin them in their own end. They just seem terribly disorganized. But once again, I think we have to credit the Swedish team for just being so tenacious in their forechecking, both deep in the Czech zone and in the offensive zone. They've controlled a couple of key areas of the ice all night long.
There'll be another face-off on the icing call back in the Czech zone. This is the Labatt Canada Cup. Not much time left now for the red-shirted Czechs, trailing Sweden 3-0 here in the Canada Cup in Regina, Saskatchewan. Sharp angle shot is gloved by the goalie Hasek. Czechs still having trouble getting out of their own zone. As we say, that is where they have spent a good part of this third period. That's where you want to be when you're down 3 goals. Eldebrink gets it back now as he retreats and kills more time for Sweden. The Swedes not at all caring about the goal differential that might come up should there be a tie for a final playoff spot here. Swedish player is taken down on a tackle in the corner here, and there's going to be a penalty to Czechoslovakia. That's something they don't need. Looks like Lubina is going to get the gate as soon as the Czechs touch the puck, and they will here and bring the whistle about to enforce the penalty.
Well, you're right about that. Pretty well putting the final cramp in the hamstring of Czechoslovakia, and it was a retaliation penalty. I thought that referee Stewart might call this original one. See how Eldebrink took him in. I mean, that was he draped him into the boards pretty well, but it was the Czech coming off the boards that retaliated against Eldebrink that Stewart saw. He let the first one go, not the second one.
Vladislav Lubina, and that's so often the case. It's a hard game to officiate, as you know, but they often see what happens after the fact, and that's the incident they will react to.
Well, there's a much greater difference between the plane that the cameras see, the angle that we see, and the angle that the referee sees. He is down on that horizontal plane, and believe me, there's just a blur of colors in front of him at times. Very tough to see for anyone out there.
Golak's long shot handled easily by Peter Lindmark. Certainly, he kept Sweden in the game long enough for his offense to generate some scoring today, and that has been the key factor in how this Canada Cup game has gone. Anderson waits for it back on the left point, gets it now, relays on the right side. Telvin's wind up at his hard blasters block, still loose in front, swept away by Czechoslovakia with 3:45 to play in regulation time. Michael Telvin for Sweden to Carlson. This is the Swedish power play with Lubina sitting out 2 minutes with 1:15 left in his sentence. Nobody out in front, so back it comes to Telvin again. With Sodergren. Telvin at the point, over to Anderson. Anderson drifted in the direction of the Czechoslovakian goal, knocked down by the glove of the Swedish player, but play goes right on. If you don't pass it to somebody or really make an impact in redirecting it, they will let any glove pucks go here in these rules. They differ slightly from the National Hockey League. Here is Anderson now. Sweden in total dominance with Eklund inside the line. Sodergren back for Eklund. Over to Michael Anderson. He can't make the play, and all the Czechs can do, let alone come back in this game, is clear it down the ice. Try to buy a little time, have a tick away, resign to the fact that they have lost to Team Sweden here this afternoon. Just over 2.5 minutes to go as Anderson brings it inside the line, dropping it for Eklund into an open corner down there for Pettersson. Eklund digs it free. Anderson. Here's Samuelsson, deflected by Eklund, and it's a 4-0 hockey game for Sweden.
Boy, what a nice low shot to deflect, too. Anderson was just letting it go, directing it towards the net, and obviously not trying to score from there. Sure, you hope that it goes in. But here will be the pass back to the point to Anderson. Look at the bottom left of your screen. There is Eklund. He's just drifting towards the net. Boy, look what I found. There's a Canada Cup goal for me to take home.
One more look at it now as it comes in his direction. Got himself in perfect position with the stick to lift it over the goaltender, Dominik Hasek. Power play goal, so we finally have one here today. It took a while. With just 2 minutes and 20 seconds to go in the hockey game. The Czechs did not score all day, and they had many chances. So the extra goal may or may not help Sweden down the road if there is a tie for the semifinal qualifying spots at the end of round-robin play. The top 4 teams out of 6 advance, of course, but they're in total command here over the Czechs today. Czechoslovakia really mounting no offense whatsoever in this third period, having to down 3-0 as play began. Less than 2 minutes to go. Eldebrink gets it ahead at center ice. Eriksson with Naslund. They can't win it. Czechs have it inside the Swedish line. A wild shot. The bad angle comes all the way back down to the Czechoslovakian zone. The stick of Eriksson. Russell for Czechoslovakia. 1:25 left now. Russell continues, makes the play to the side of the net, and he couldn't get a good shot away. Vladimir Ruzicka. Rundqvist for Sweden. He gets a whack as he crosses the blue line, but all for naught as it's called offside with 1:09 to go.
He sure did get a whack. That was Volk that hit him. And at the other end, Volk had taken a hit in front of the net from number 19, Peter Anderson, and that was one of those delayed reactions where Volk was saying to himself, I might not get Anderson, but I'm going to get someone. Here it is. Here's Rundqvist crossing the line. There's Volk taking a swipe at him. That was just a bunch of energy built up from way down at the other end of the ice. He didn't care. Somebody dressed in yellow. Just get somebody dressed in yellow and blue next to me.
Not to mention 59 minutes of total frustration here.
Right.
That is built for Czechoslovakia. 1:09 left now, and that'll be worth 2 minutes for slashing to Sweden's Thomas Rundqvist. But it's much too late to help Czechoslovakia.
You think Tommy Sandlin isn't happy with what's happening? He doesn't care about penalties or anything right now. He's got a 4-0 bulge. And we're really just about cinched themselves a place in the semifinal round of the four finalists.
Lindmark way out. He may lose his shutout on this. No. Great reaction there by Michael Telvin, but a bit of carelessness and a gamble by the goalie almost cost him the shutout.
And you know, he just kept drifting after he missed the puck. I thought the whistle had blown. I was watching Lindmark. He just said, I'm going to take my time. The boys will take care of it.
Pretty nonchalant. Indeed, they did. He was right about that as he steers this one away. 35 seconds to play now, and that's the only thing in doubt this afternoon is will Lindmark, as he has deserved, get a shutout today. Bolek turned back at the Swedish blue line. Now they carry on inside with Dodijan. Over on the right boards. Erdina circling in the corner, leaves it down behind the net. And there'll be another late penalty or two, one each way here from referee Paul Stewart of the United States with just 11 seconds to go. So the temper's getting to a certain edge at this stage. Many of the penalties today have been the result of improper use of the stick. Slashing, high sticking, cross-checking, that kind of thing. A couple of holding penalties, but they've been at the woodchopper's ball here most of this game. I'll tell you, over the years covering world championships and Olympics, some of the most violent hockey games I've ever seen have been between the Czechs and the Soviet Union. Of course, a lot of intensity there, but really the cheap stuff in the corners, the butt ends, and much liberal use of the sticks.
Yeah, we don't hear too much of the other rivalries in the world, do we?
Well, they certainly have one. Just 5 seconds left now. One final attempt for the Czechs to break the shutout. And it's not going to happen as as time has run out here in Regina, Saskatchewan, with Sweden getting a first period goal, adding another in the second, a pair more for good measure in the third, handily defeating and blanking the team coached by this man, Dr. Jan Starzy of Czechoslovakia, by a 4-0 score. So the Swedes collect their second win in 3 games. They are 2-1. And the Czechs are still winless, although they do have a tie against Canada. But looking back on their performance today to that game, you have to wonder in retrospect how on earth they did manage to hold Canada even.
Well, I don't know how they're going to make the Final Four. They have games remaining against Finland and the United States. But unless the United States collapses, Finland hasn't won a game yet. I can't see them making the finals. It's just about over for them. But this Czechoslovakian team, that after that first game, you're right, Don, they look so impressive, and we expected them perhaps to be a dark horse in this entire tournament, are going to have to scramble now.
Just past the halfway mark of this tournament, but it now looks like the Soviets, Canada, the United States, and Sweden are the ones who are going to be there at the end.
That's 1984 revisited. Those are the exact same 4 teams that made the semifinals in 1984's Canada Cup.
All right, let's go to the PA announcer here for the closing ceremonies, Mr. Kim Camarda.
To present the Labatt Player of the Game Awards, Mr. Trent Fraser, Marketing Representative, Labatt's Breweries of Saskatchewan. The Labatt Player of the Game for Team Sweden, #1, Peter Lindberg. The Labatt Player of the Game for Team Czechoslovakia, #27, Rostislav Vlach.
So the players of the game have been justly rewarded. Sweden gets rewarded with a 4-0 shutout over Czechoslovakia here in Regina, Saskatchewan. Game 3 for both teams here in the Canada Cup. And from Regina, this is the Labatt Canada Cup.
This is the floor, Lindmark won't come.
Thank you. No on camera. You at any point, Briggsy? All right.
No cameras. About 45 seconds. Seconds.
30 seconds, yeah, we'll go to another commercial anyway. We go to another commercial anyway, so.
Good shot, go guys.
Here we go. Quiet, please.
5.
We are back to the Agrodome in Regina, Saskatchewan, where Sweden has just defeated Czechoslovakia by a score of 4-0 in this Canada Cup encounter. Looking at it by period, the only goal of the first period came from Team Sweden. It was scored by Jonas Bergqvist from Sodergren. That came at the 14:30 mark of the opening period. In the first period of play, Czechoslovakia outshot Sweden 12-9. In the second period, the only goal that time was scored by Anders Eldebrink, with an assist going to Michael Anderson. That came at the 13-15 mark. Shots on goal in the second, 13-8 in favor of Czechoslovakia. Moving on to the third period, the Swedes closed it out with 2 more goals. The first one scored by Lars Pettersson with assist to Telvin and Eklund at 9:05. Then the only power play goal of the game, Tom Eklund scoring it at the 17:40 mark with assist to Samuelsson and Anderson. Shots on goal in the game, 28 for Sweden, 34 for Czechoslovakia. It was 11-9 in favor of Sweden in that third period of play. The final score, once again, Sweden 4, Czechoslovakia nothing. We'll be back to the Agrodome in just a minute. This is the Labatt Canada Cup. Okay, you want me on camera for 30? All right. And then we'll do the standings. All right. Won't be long. And then I do that voiceover for the closing, right? You can talk. Just... Yep. Yeah. I'll get that in a second. Okay.
Seconds.
Boy, not much up there anymore.
50.
Okay.
Five, everybody. 4. Snosty.
We are back to the Agrodome in Regina, Saskatchewan, where Sweden has just defeated Czechoslovakia by a score of 4-0 in a Canada Cup encounter that was crucial to both teams. Sweden went into the game needing a victory to probably ensure their way into the medal round. The Czechs, on the other hand, were also in a similar situation. They only have 1 tie to show for their 3 games thus far. This loss to Sweden today was their second of the tournament. There you look at the standings up to date. The United States, the only team that has won both of its starts, 4 points. Sweden also with 4 points, but they've got a loss. Canada with 3 points from a win and a tie. Then the Soviet Union, Czechoslovakia, and Finland. That wraps it up from the Agrodome in Regina. We'd like to thank you very much for watching our game. Once again, Sweden 4, Czechoslovakia nothing. The final. This is the Labatt Canada Cup. The executive producer of the Labatt Canada Cup is Tom McKee. Labatt Canada Cup 87 is a special presentation of TV Labatt. This telecast is protected by copyright. Any use without permission is prohibited.
Is your line still open to Sweden?
Yes, it will be.
Yes, it is.
Kommer Pekka också? Snyggt mål. Härligt.
Do you have 2 interviews with Coach Anton?
One with the coach and 2 players.
Okay, we have... Rick, we have one with the coach and 2 players, yes.
Pekka kommer också, va?
Hur långt många minuter? Han går ut och snackar med dem.
Ja, det tar kanske 5-6 minuter till.
5 minuter, sen kommer
Ja.
Swedish guy. I'll keep him busy. Okay, stand by, please.
Ja.
Cue.
Ja, Tommy Sandlin, det är ett ganska hyfsat hockeylag du basar för.
Ja, jag tycker det är mycket bra. De här 2 matcherna nu mot Sovjet först och sen Tjeckerna här, det är perfekta matcher.
Det var ju 2 olika lag vi såg om vi jämför matchen mot USA och den här matchen.
Och man måste tänka på förutsättningarna också. Att först den här urladdningen mot Sovjet och sen en resa hela dagen då över hela den amerikanska eller kanadensiska kontinenten. Sånt tar på. Och det är svårt att tända om då till en match mot USA så nära inpå.
Varför slog vi tjeckerna såklart?
Ja, framförallt tycker jag att Pekka gör en 100% match i målet. Och laget överhuvudtaget, de samarbetar mycket disciplinerat. Ett lagspel.
Okay, we have no audio. We have
No audio.
no problems, okay? Okay, you say whenever. Okay, cue.
Ja, Tommy Sandlin, det måste kännas skönt att basa för i alla fall trots allt ett ganska hyggligt hockeylandslag.
Ja, det är ett mycket bra landslag det här.
Är du överraskad över insatsen?
Att vinna över tjeckerna med 4-0, det är jag överraskad över, det måste jag erkänna.
Varför gjorde vi det?
Framförallt Pekka i målet gör en 100% match. Vi har ett lagspel där alla hjälper varann, samarbetar mycket disciplinerat.
Taktiken stämde ikväll till 100%.
Ja, om Pekka spelar så här bra då stämmer alltid taktiken.
Men det är någon taktik förutom Pekka måste det finnas.
Ja, taktik, då ändrar man ju sitt eget spelsystem och vi har ju nött in ett spelmönster och det går vi inte ifrån. Så jag vill inte påstå att vi hade någon speciell taktik mer än att inte blotta oss för tjeckernas kontringar som de är mycket bra på.
Ganska fysisk hockey i alla fall med fullföljda tacklingar och en hel del låsningar.
Ja, jag tycker inte att det är något så anmärkningsvärt att det är många som säger så, men så här spelar vi vad jag tycker i samtliga matcher.
Och så ska vi spela?
Ja, självklart.
Om du jämför insatsen mot USA senast och den här så är det ju 2 skilda lag som uppträder.
Jo, men man måste förstå förutsättningarna inför USA-matchen. Vi hade en urladdning då mot Sovjet som inte var av denna värld. Sen reser vi över hela den kanadensiska kontinenten, kommer fram, får spela mot ett amerikanskt professionellt landslag som har fått vila en dag och en kortare resa. Det måste man förstå och då är det är svårt att spela då under sådana förutsättningar.
Är du helt nöjd med matchen ikväll?
Ja, helt nöjd.
Det finns ingenting som du... Kenta Nilsson skulle skjuta lite oftare eller någon annan? Det finns inga sådana?
Ja, men det var läckra dragningar som Kenta gjorde.
Okej, Tommy, ska vi ta en andra avdelning här då? Ja, ni har slagit Tjeckoslovakien, men nu är det att sätta sig på ett flygplan igen.
Ja, klockan 22:30 kväll flyger vi till Montreal. Vi landar klockan 4 i morgon bitti lokal tid. Men det är vi vana med. Vi reser varannan dag och vi reser 300-400 mil.
Ser du att det tar på grabbarna? Att det förändrar deras motivation eller inställning på något sätt?
Absolut inte om jag ska bedöma efter match mot tjeckerna. Men det är klart att USA-matchen då var vi påverkade av det här resprogrammet. Så att det vore onormalt om man inte vore påverkad.
Och nu gäller det Kanada. Ett transatlantiskt lag igen. Det hade svårt mot USA.
Ja, jag tror att det är framförallt beroende på att urladdningen mot Sovjet och att vi inte fick tillräckligt med vila emellan. Nu kommer vi fram till Montreal 4 i morgon bitti. Sen får vi 2 dagar att ladda upp där. Så att jag tror att vi kommer att göra en klart bra match mot Kanada.
Kan vi spela annorlunda än vi gjorde mot USA? Är det inte risk för att vi lockas in i samma fälla?
Jag tycker inte att det var någon taktisk fälla utan att jag tycker att det var framförallt på grund av att vi hade en sån enorm urladdning mot Sovjet. Det var svårt att tända om.
Och motivationen att slå Kanada finns?
Absolut, det ska vi göra.
Tack Tommy.
Tack.
Ska vi ta och peka då? Jag ska fråga dig om snart. Du... Också, han är bjuden här. Oj.
Anytime.
Ja. Pekka Lindmark i galaföreställning igen i det här resande teatersällskapet som ni snart utgör. Man frågar sig hur bär det åt Pekka?
Idag var det inte så svårt tycker jag. Har man bra hjälp och alla ställer upp och offrar sig 100% då är det så underbart att stå där bak i mål, så då kan man bjuda till lite extra själv.
Mm. Men du hade mer att göra än du hade mot Sovjet till exempel?
Ja, det är som målvakt tycker jag att det är mycket lättare om man har lite mer än typ mot ryssarna. Då stod man ju nästan och sov helt.
Är det annorlunda att stå till exempel mot tjecker än mot ryssar?
Ja, det är det ju.
Eller kanadensare? Spelar det olika?
Man kan gå ut lite mer typ mot tjecker, kanadensare, amerikanare än man kan mot ryssar. Ryssar håller in och försöker spela bort den.
Jag kommer ihåg Pekka en räddning som du gjorde, tror jag, för första perioden. När du flaxade till med armen och så satt pucken där i plockhandsken. Hur tänker du då? Ser du pucken eller slår du bara till där du tror att den ska komma?
Ja, den grejen är man har mycket tur och en reflexgrej. Det ser man vad små marginalerna är. Gör de mål där så kanske det blir helt annorlunda. Nu fick man ju ta den pucken och komma in i matchen och kände att det stämde.
Men det är en reflexsak?
Ja,
alltså.
Precis. Han är så nära och allting. Va?
Hur känner du formmässigt? Ni åker mycket?
Ja, men jag personligen tycker inte att det är så... Det är klart det är jobbigt, va? Men man kan sova lika gärna på planen som att ligga och sova på ett hotell.
Nästa gång är det Kanada. Då ska du också hålla nollan?
Ja, jag vet först och främst inte om jag ska stå, men ska jag stå då, det är klart jag ska försöka, men det är inte det lättaste att hålla.
Är det svårare med kanadensiska hockeyspelare? Är de tuffare i närkamperna framför mål?
Ja, de går in mycket hårdare på mål, va? Men jag personligen tycker att det är roligt att spela mot.
Man måste se upp mer där?
Ja, man måste vara alert hela tiden. Va?
Är du aktiv själv där på ett annat sätt? Och ge knuffar och så?
Ja, man måste hjälpa backarna kanske lite mer än typ mot tjeckerna.
Och forwards som står framför, de klipper man på ibland, eller?
Ja, man försöker irritera dem lite. Va? Men man kan ju inte flytta på dem, det är ju ganska svårt.
Tror du att vi slår Kanada också?
Det är svårt att säga, men chansen finns helt klart.
Tack ska du ha. Och så Anders Kort, du måste berätta om ditt mål här. Ja, så roligt. Det var i andra perioden, va? Visst var det?
Ja, just
ja.
Okej, anytime.
Ja. Det stod 1-0 till Sverige över Tjeckoslovakien och det stod och vägde sådär. Då slog Anders Eldbrink till och det var ett härligt mål gjorde.
Jag hade tur att komma förbi några killar och när jag fick pucken efter sargen så tänkte jag att nu måste jag dra. Jag såg en kom emot mig och sen kom en till och då var jag tvungen att flytta mot sidan på han också. Sen, det sista jag tänkte var att skjuta högt, för det har vi pratat om hela tiden mot just Hasek. Men han lägger sig i spagat och väldigt svåra mål efter isen. Så att, jag försökte få en högt och jag lyckades vinna.
När du berättar det så här så låter det mest som det var tur och lyckade omständigheter. Är det så när det blir ett sånt här mål?
Ja, det är mycket, jag vet inte, det är mycket tur, men kommer man in framför mål och skjuta, det är för mycket folk förbi. Det är svårt för att ta dem.
Ja, men det kändes rätt från början att du var rätt i aktionen liksom?
Ja, det var som zigzag. Jag kände mig som Stenmark.
Ja. Och så var det 2-0 och då fick ni råg i ryggen?
Då fick vi råg i ryggen och vi började spela lite säkrare, lite mycket större marginaler och så. De fick börja jaga oss och försöka i mål och då lätt hänt att det blir 3-0 och det hade vi tur att få också.
4 poäng har ni nu och ni behöver väl någon pinne ytterligare? Vi
behöver säkert någon pinne till och vi ska göra ett bra försök mot Kanada och hoppas få fram den här viljan som vi hade idag. Då tror jag vi har en bra chans. Annars i värsta fall får vi reparera mot Finland.
Ja, det kan inte vara så att ni tänker att Kanada klarar vi inte ändå, vi tar det mot Finland?
Nej, vi försöker alla matcher. Men annars är det inget att spela, då kan vi lika nästan en match.
Hur är du påverkad av det här resandet?
Det är jobbigt, men man har varit över och spelat i Kanada förut så att man är ganska van med det och jag tror alla killar det. Jag menar, man ligger och sover på planen som Pekka sa också, som man ligger på hotellrum och sover så att det går ganska bra.
Tack så mycket.
Tack.
Thank you.
Is that it?
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's it.